All right, people, settle in, relax, because here we go. The midnight hour is here, and I'm back with more twisted tales from Germany. Today's reading is arguably one of the scariest, if not the scariest story from the Brothers Grimm, titled The Juniper Tree. And I'm happy, very happy to bring it to you live for your viewing and hearing pleasure. No edits whatsoever. So here we go. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride. So I found this story on bookpress.co.uk. The Juniper Tree, a Brothers Grimm tale. The horrid tale of a mother possessed by evil, a dinner of death, and a beautiful singing bird. The Juniper Tree begins with a happy couple who want for a child. When the couple eventually do have the child, the mother is so happy that she dies. She is buried under the juniper tree according to her wishes. The man later remarries and has a second child, a daughter. But the new wife is extremely jealous of the son's beauty and becomes possessed by evil. What follows is a tale full of deceit, murder, and revenge. Can it end happily ever after? We're about to find out. The Juniper Tree is a German fairy tale collected by the Brothers Grimm in children's and household tales. The first edition of the collection had critical reviews stating that the stories were unsuitable for children. The reviewers had a point. The early editions of the tales are famously gory. The Juniper Tree is a particularly gruesome tale with themes of cannibalism and murder. So without further ado, The Juniper Tree, a Brothers Grimm tale. 1 or 2,000 years ago, there was a rich man who had a beautiful and pious wife. They loved one another dearly, but they had no children. They wished and prayed for some night and day, but still they had none. In front of their house was a yard where stood a juniper tree, and under it the wife stood once in winter and peeled an apple. And as she peeled the apple, she cut her finger, and the blood fell on the snow. "Oh," she said, sighing deeply and looking sorrowfully at the blood, if I only had a child as red as blood and as white as snow." While she spoke, she became quite happy. It seemed to her as if her wish would surely come to pass. Then she went into the house, and a month passed, and the snow melted, and 2 months, and the ground was green, and 3 months, and the flowers came up out of the earth, and 4 months, and all the trees in the wood burst forth, and the green twigs all grew thickly together. The little birds sang so that the whole wood rang, and the blossoms fell from the trees. The 5th month passed, and she stood under the juniper tree, and it smelled so beautiful, and her heart leaped for joy. She fell upon her knees, but could not speak. When the 6th month was gone, the fruit was large and ripe, and she was very quiet. The 7th month, she took the juniper berries, ate them eagerly, and was sick and sorrowful. And the eighth month went by, and she called to her husband and cried and said, "If I die, bury me under the juniper tree." After this, she was quite comforted and happy till the next month was past. And then she had a child as white as snow and as red as blood. When she beheld it, she was glad that she died. When she beheld it, she was so glad that she died. Her husband buried her under the juniper tree and began to mourn very much. But after a little time, he became calmer. And when he had wept a little more, he left off weeping entirely. And soon afterwards, he took another wife. The second wife brought him a daughter, but the child of the first wife was a little son, and was as red as blood and as white as snow. When the wife looked at her daughter, she loved her, but when she looked at the little boy, she hated him, and it seemed as if he were always in her way, and she was always thinking how she could get all the property for her daughter. The evil one possessed her so that she was quite angry with the little boy and pushed him about from one corner to another and cuffed him here and pinched him there, until the poor child was always in fear. When he came home from school, he could not find a quiet place to creep into. Once, when the woman went up to her room, her little daughter came up too and said, "Mother, give me an apple." "Yes, my child," said the woman, and gave her a beautiful apple out of the chest. And the chest had a great heavy lid with a great sharp iron lock. "Mother," said the little daughter, "shall not brother have one too?" That vexed the woman, but she said, "Yes, when he comes from school." And when she saw from the window that he was coming, it was as if the evil one came into her, and she snatched away the apple from her daughter, and said, "You shall not have one before your brother." Then she threw the apple into the chest and shut the lid close down. When the little boy came in at the door, the evil one made her say kindly, "My son, will you have an apple?" Yet she looked so angry all the time that the little boy said, "Mother, how dreadful you look." "Yes, give me an apple." Then she felt that she must speak to him. "Come with me," she said, and opened the lid. "Pick out an apple for yourself." And as the little boy stooped over, the evil one prompted her, and smash! She banged the lid down so that his head flew off and fell among the red apples. Then she was seized with terror and thought, "Can I get rid of the blame of this?" So she went up to her room, to her chest of drawers, and took out of the top drawer a white cloth, and placed the head on the neck again, and tied the handkerchief round it, so that one could see nothing, and set him before the door on a chair, and gave him the apple in his hand. Soon after, little Marjorie came to her mother, who stood by the kitchen fire, and had a pot of hot water before her, which she kept stirring round. "Mother," said Marjorie, "brother sits before the door and looks quite white and has an apple in his hand. I asked him to give me the apple, but he did not answer me, and I was frightened." "Go to him again," said her mother, "and if he will not answer you, give him a box on the ear." Then Marjorie went and said, "Brother, give me the apple." But he was silent, so she gave him a box on the ear, and the head fell down. She was frightened and began to cry and sob, and ran to her mother and said, "Oh, mother, I have knocked my brother's head off," and cried and would not be comforted. "Marjorie," said her mother, "what have you done? But now be quiet, and no one will notice. It cannot be helped now. We will cook him in vinegar." Then the mother took the little boy and chopped him in pieces, put him into the pot, and cooked him in vinegar. But Marjorie stood by and cried, and all her tears fell into the pot, so that the cookery did not want any salt. When the father came home and sat down to dinner, he said, "Where is my son?" The mother brought a great big dish of black soup, and Marjorie cried without ceasing. Then the father said again, "Where is my son?" "Oh," said the mother, "he has gone into the country to see his uncle, where he is going to stay a while." "What does he want there? And he has not even said goodbye to me." "Oh, he wished very much to go and asked if he might remain away 6 weeks. He is well taken care of there, you know." "Well," said the father, "I am sorry, for he ought to have bade me goodbye." After that he began to eat and said, "Marjorie, what are you crying for? Brother will be sure to come back. Oh, wife," he continued, "how delicious this food tastes. Give me some more." And the more he ate, the more he wanted. And he said, "Give me more. You shall not have any of it. I feel as if it were all mine." And he ate and ate, throwing the bones under the table till he had finished it all. But Marjorie went to her drawers and took out of the bottom drawer her best silk handkerchief and fetched out all the bones from under the table. She tied them up in the silk handkerchief and took them out of the doors and shed bitter tears over them. Then she laid them under the juniper tree in the green grass. And when she had put them there, she felt all at once quite happy and did not cry anymore. Soon the juniper began to move, and the twigs kept dividing and then closing, just as if the tree were clapping its hands for joy. After that, there went up from it a sort of mist, and right in the center of the mist burnt a fire, and out of the fire flew a beautiful bird, who, singing deliciously, rose up high in the air. When he was out of sight, the juniper tree was just as it had been before, only the handkerchief with the bones was gone. But Marjorie felt quite pleased and happy, just as if her brother were still alive, and she went back merrily into the house to dinner. The bird flew away, sat himself on a goldsmith's house, and began to sing. My mother, she killed me. My father, he ate me. My sister, little Marjorie, gathered up all my bones, tied them in a silk handkerchief, and laid them under the juniper tree. Kivit, kivit, what a beautiful bird am I. The goldsmith sat in his workshop making a gold chain, but he heard the bird which sat on the roof and sang, and he thought it was very beautiful. He stood up, and as he went over the doorstep, he lost one slipper. But he went right into the middle of the street with one slipper and one sock on. He had on his leather apron, and in one hand he carried the gold chain, and in the other the pincers. Well, the sun shone brightly up the street. There he stood and looked at the bird. Bird, he said, how beautiful you can sing. Sing me that song again. No, said the bird, I do not sing twice for nothing. Give me that gold chain, and I will sing it again. There, said the goldsmith, you shall have the gold chain. Now sing me that song once more. Then the bird came and took the gold chain in his right claw and went and sat before the goldsmith and sang. My mother, she killed me. My father, he ate me. My sister, little Marjorie, gathered up all my bones, tied them in a silk handkerchief, and laid them under the juniper tree. Kivit, kivit, what a beautiful bird am I. Afterwards, he flew away to the shoemaker's and set himself on his roof and sang, my mother, she killed me. My father, he ate me. My sister, little Marjorie, gathered up all my bones, tied them in a silk handkerchief, and laid them under the juniper tree. Kivit, kivit, what a beautiful bird am I. When the shoemaker heard it, he ran out of his door in his shirt sleeves, looked toward his roof, and had to hold his hand over his eyes so that the sun should not dazzle him. Bird, he said, how beautiful you can sing. And he called in at his door. Wife, just come out. There's a bird here which can sing so beautifully. Then he called his daughter and his work people with boys and girls. They all came into the street, looked at the bird, and saw how handsome he was, for he had bright red and green feathers, and his neck shone like real gold, and his eyes twinkled in his head like stars. Bird, said the shoemaker, now sing me that song again. No, replied the bird, I do not sing twice for nothing. You must give me something. Wife, said the man, go to the garret. On the highest shelf, there stands a pair of red shoes. Bring them here. The wife went and fetched the shoes. There, said the man, now sing me that song again. Then the bird came and took the shoes in his left claw and flew back on the roof and sang, my mother, she killed me. My father, he ate me. My sister, little Marjorie, gathered up all my bones, tied them in a silk handkerchief, and laid them under the juniper tree. Kivit, kivit, what a beautiful bird am I. And when he had finished, he flew away with the chain in his right claw and the shoes in his left. He flew far away to a mill, and the mill went clipper, clapper, clipper, clapper, clipper, clapper. And in the mill there sat 20 millers, who chopped the stone and chopped. Hick, hack, hick, hack, hick, hack. And the mill went clipper, clapper, clipper, clapper, clipper, clapper. The bird flew up and sat on a lime tree that grew before the mill and sang. My mother, she killed me. Then one man stopped. My father, he ate me. Then 2 more stopped and listened. My sister, little Marjorie, then 4 more stopped, gathered up all my bones, tied them in a silk handkerchief. Now only 8 more were chopping, laid them under, now only 5. The juniper tree, now only 1. Kivit, kivit, what a beautiful bird am I. Then the last man stopped too and heard the last word. Bird, he said, how beautiful you sing. Please to sing me that once more. No, answered the bird, I do not sing twice for nothing. Give me the millstone and I will sing it again. Yes, he said, if it belonged to me only, you should have it. Yes, cried all the others. If he sings it again, he shall have it. Then the bird came down, and all the 20 millers took poles and lifted the stone up. The bird stuck his neck through the hole in the millstone and put it on like a collar, and flew back to the tree and sang. My mother, she killed me. My father, he ate me. My sister, little Marjorie, gathered up all my bones, tied them in a silk handkerchief, and laid them under the juniper tree. Kivit, what a beautiful bird am I. And when he had done singing, he opened his wings, and though he had in his right claw the chain, in his left shoes, and round his neck the millstone, he flew far away to his father's house. In the room sat the father, the mother, and little Marjorie at dinner. And the father said, Oh, how happy I am, altogether joyful. For me, said the mother, I feel quite frightened, as if a dreadful storm was coming. But Marjorie sat and cried and cried. Then there came the bird flying, and as he perched himself on the roof, Oh, said the father, I feel so happy, and the sun shines out of doors so beautifully. It is just as if I were going to see an old friend. No, said the wife, I am frightened. My teeth chatter, and it feels as if there was a fire in my veins. And she tore open her dress, but Marjorie sat in a corner and cried, holding her apron before her eyes, till the apron was quite wet through. The bird perched upon the juniper tree and sang, My mother, she killed me. Then the mother stopped up her ears and shut her eyes tight. It did not want to see or hear, but there was a roaring in her ears like the loudest thunder, and her eyes burned and flashed like lightning. My father, he ate me. Oh, wife, said the man, look at that beautiful bird. He sings so splendidly, and the sun shines so warm, and there is a smell like real cinnamon. My sister, little Marjorie. Then Marjorie laid her head on her knee and sobbed out loud. But the man said, I shall go out. I must look at the bird quite close. Oh, do not go, said the wife. It seems to me as if the whole house shook and was in flames. But the man went out and watched the bird, which still went on singing, gathered up all my bones, tied them in a silk handkerchief, and laid them under the juniper tree. Kivit, kivit, what a beautiful bird am I. After that, the bird let the gold chain fall, and it fell right onto the man's neck, fitting exactly round it. He went in and said, See what a beautiful bird that it is? It has given me such a splendid gold chain. But the wife was frightened and fell flat on the floor, and her cap dropped off her head. Then the bird sang again, My mother, she killed me. Oh, that I were 1,000 feet under the earth, so that I might not hear. My father, he ate me. Then she fell down as if she was dead. My sister, little Marjorie. Oh, said Marjorie, I will go out too, and see if the bird will give me anything. Gathered up all my bones, tied them in a silk handkerchief, and the shoes were thrown down, and laid them under the juniper tree. Kivit, kivit, what a beautiful bird am I. Then Marjorie was very joyful. She put on the new red shoes and danced and jumped about. Oh, she said, I was so unhappy when I came out, and now I am so happy. That is a wonderful bird. He has given me a pair of red shoes. For me, cried the wife, and jumped up, and her hair stood on like flames of fire. I feel as if the world were to come to an end. I will go out. Perhaps I shall feel easier. But as she went out of the door, smash! The bird threw the millstone on her head, and she was crushed to pieces. The father and Marjorie heard it and rushed out to see what had happened. There was a great flame and smoke rising up from the place, and when that was gone, there stood the little brother, all alive again, as if he had never died. He took his father and Marjorie by the hand, and they were all three quite happy and went into the house to dinner. And they lived happily ever after.